During this video, I'm going to be talking about Unit 2 and my experiences with it. In my opinion, Unit 2 was my favorite. I had a lot of fun while doing this, while learning about this unit and performing the poem. Not only did I learn a lot of useful things, like how dramatic analysis work, like in a more in-depth way, how to go further than just asking the who, what, when, where, why of stuff, how to look at specifically as a performer while using a poem as an example. I really enjoyed the dramatic analysis of it, not only though it was really tough, because you had to find out who the speaker was of the poem, who was speaking, what kind of person they were. The setting, the scene setting of where they were when performing that poem, who they were talking to in the audience, who their particular audience was, and what the purpose was of why were they performing it, why were they like that, because the why would explain what kind of voice and tone you would have to do. But it was really fun seeing how my performance evolved, how my initial analysis changed throughout the performance. Though for me in particular, I think it was very steady since the first time I read the poem, because it's such a very clear-cut poem. Well, not clear-cut. There's like a lot of ways I could have analyzed it, but what was really important was like pretty clear, because it was a poem where it was basically just my speaker having a conversation with poetry. In my opinion, because she was struggling with writer's block and she was mad because poetry was finally giving her ideas when she was trying to sleep. You know, like it usually does. Anyone who had artist block could kind of relate to this poem, and that's why I think that's who this poem is for. It's for people who felt that before. This really helped. These kinds of thoughts and process really helped me inform how my final performance was gonna go, how to see my performance, who my persona was. I tried my best to embody an exhausted poet who is tired and just wanted to fall asleep. Because in my opinion, I was kind of performing two people. I was performing my persona and I was performing poetry. My persona was just exhausted. She just wanted to sleep. She had basically given up for the night, while poetry was optimistic and bright-eyed and just very mischievous, trying to get the persona to wake up. It was a really fun way to figure out how to go from putting that in paper to actually performing that in real life. I feel like I got it across pretty well that I was basically performing two people, even though one of them wasn't a person. Because the way I would move around on my bed, so to say, was that whenever I was laying back, I was the persona, and whenever I was sitting up, I was poetry, because poetry wanted to get up. They wanted to get up and talk and just give a lot of ideas, while persona just wanted to lay down and fall asleep, though she was struggling to. And I think my scene was really clear. Not only did I bring a pillow and blanket to make it clear what it was, but I literally just would get up whenever I had to write down on my poem. Though I think I could have had my purpose been more clear, in my opinion. I tried to be as clear as I could that my purpose was just to show the exhaustion and how unfair poetry is, and how inspiration can be very mean about when to rear its head, so to say. I do feel like I could have been clearer on that, and there were some parts of my poem where I not necessarily forgot my line, but I just like would pause for an extra second than necessary. Like there was one time when I said the word canyon, I had forgotten it. I almost said desert, so I had to like pause myself before I said that, and just threw Canyon out as quickly as I could, and I feel like that's the most noticeable pause. Another one was the second time I was mentioning that she had an eye to see it with. I did a very big pause, but I feel like in that moment it was more discreet because it seemed like more of a dramatic effect, but I don't know. If I would do this performance again, though, I would certainly practice a couple more times. Maybe using like the bed prop. That was a fun thing that I was able to borrow from the previous performer. But based on everything I said, I do believe like I should get like a 90. I feel like my introduction could have been way better whenever I introduced myself. But I honestly think I had a really solid performance. So I think like an A on this performance, like a 90 or something like that would have been great, because not only did I have an opening and a closure that were pretty solid compared to other people. Like a lot of people who, when they were performing, whenever they said the last line of the poem, they would just say scene and finish it. Wouldn't do any closure, which I thought was a big part of our grade. Everyone had an opening, but no one really had a closure except a couple. But I had that, and I feel like I did a pretty solid job in performing my poem. And I didn't ask for a line anytime. I just had a couple awkward pauses that I feel like I was able to mask pretty well.